The story begins in a dark underground tunnel. Naruto and Sakura anxiously search for Sasuke's whereabouts. This is another den of Orochimaru. They have grown up a collapsed hut. Sunlight streams in. They finally find Sasuke, waiting for their pupils to fully adjust to the light change. Sasuke has already drifted over to Naruto's side. Unprepared, Naruto Sasuke slowly draws the Kusanagi sword. He mercilessly stabs towards Naruto's back. Sasuke still refuses to return with them. At the moment of crisis, Naruto returns to the consciousness where Kurama is sealed. The seal loosens slightly. Red chakra emits an evil aura. Outside the gate, it forms the shape of Kurama. It tempts Naruto to tear off the seal on the gate, so it can give all its power to Naruto. At this moment, it does not know that the enemy outside is Sasuke from the Uchiha clan. The next second, Sasuke, skilled in genjutsu, comes into Naruto's consciousness world. He sees Kurama inside Naruto Sasuke, whose strength has greatly increased, simply grasps and crushes the illusion of Kurama. Back to the familiar scene, in the fragrant forest filled with birds and flowers. The new generation of Genin begins D-rank missions. Konohamaru's ninja squad on a mission. The small cat easily mocks Konohamaru and his team, during which they knock over a girl's clothes rack, an old man's fruit stand, and overturn the boss's ramen takeaway. Konohamaru officially replaces Naruto. As the troublemaker of Konohagakure village cornered, the small cat scratches Konohamaru a few times, but still cannot escape from its owner's embrace. Konohamaru starts to complain about the simplicity and tedium of the mission. His attitude and language are just like Naruto's. After a long period of training, Naruto and Jiraiya finally return. When passing the entrance of Konohagakure village, the gatekeeper sees the long-lost figure. His expression becomes joyful. On the bustling streets, two parallel streets, Naruto and Sakura temporarily miss each other. Good things always come late. Naruto first returns to his home, unable to conceal his excitement. He climbs a pillar, the headband fluttering in the wind. He clenches his fist to declare he is back. Sakura, upon hearing the news of Naruto from the gatekeeper, also rushes over. Naruto is still clueless about romance. Sakura compliments Naruto for growing taller and stronger. While Naruto says Sakura is still the same as before, Konohamaru gives Naruto a big surprise. A move of Iroyu no Jutsu, truly mesmerizing Jiraiya, directly falls for it. Naruto calmly tells Konohamaru he has grown up and will no longer play such childish ninjutsu. Watching Naruto's mature appearance, Sakura is inevitably moved. However, the next second, the familiar Naruto returns. He has developed a new Iroyu no Jutsu, but before he can use it, Sakura punches him. Perhaps it's this kind of playful fighting that just clears the awkwardness and unfamiliarity of not seeing each other for over 2 years. Indeed, Naruto is cuter after being hit. Inside the Hokage's office, Tsunade welcomes the return of the master and disciple. A tricky matter is immediately handed over to Naruto to see the results of over 2 years of training. Then the door is pushed open. Shikamaru and Temari come forward. Temari is still beautiful. Shikamaru praises Naruto for being steadier. Before Naruto has a chance to act deep, he is exposed by Sakura next to him. Naruto thought the opponent Tsunade mentioned was these two, but the opponent is not them. Tsunade gestures him to look outside. Naruto sees the long-missed teacher Kakashi. Excitedly jumping out the window, he gave Kakashi a long-prepared gift. The latest volume of Icha Icha Paradise. Kakashi was very excited. Even facing formidable enemies, he never lost his composure like this. The not fully matured Naruto couldn't understand the psyche of an adult man. As long as Kakashi-sensei likes the gift, it's fine. Tsunade spoke up. Naruto's opponent this time is Kakashi. His teammate is Sakura. Kakashi suggests that Naruto should rest, but Naruto states he is ready for the test at any time. Kakashi-sensei couldn't help feeling gloomy. He's eager to dive into the book in his arms, but his beloved disciple won't let him have his way. Walking on the street, Naruto learned. The arrival of Shikamaru and Temari is because both are organizers of the new Chunin exams. At this point, Naruto sighs how quickly time passes. He kind of misses the Chunin exam experience. But Shikamaru bluntly states, aside from Naruto, all other examinees from that session have become Chunin. Naruto is stunned on the spot. Unknowingly, his peers have already surpassed him. Naruto thinks of Gaara. Gaara has already become the Kazekage. Continuing his life as a genin, Naruto's ambition remains undimmed. He still aspires to become the Hokage. On the rooftop of a building, Kakashi, hiding and reading, is still found by Jiraiya. Jiraiya hands over Naruto to Kakashi, thus ending his duty as a teacher. His attention now moves to another troublesome disciple from Akatsuki. Akatsuki's activities are becoming more active. Jiraiya also informs other ninja villages to strengthen their defenses, but strong fortresses always break from within. In Sunagakure, Kazekage Gaara is holding a meeting. Under his leadership these years, Sunagakure has fared quite well. Relations with Konohagakure have also grown close. Yura, responsible for Anbu operations, reports on strengthening alert defenses, all to guard against Akatsuki's disruptions. After the meeting, Yura suddenly trembles. A long-hidden seal within him is undone. He recalls his true identity. His sealed memories have been awakened. He needs to coordinate with the two Akatsuki members outside, in a barren landscape filled with yellow sand, and Sasori make their official appearance. Their target is clear. It's the Shukaku inside Gaara Deidara. Deidara pulls open a small bag he carries. A mouth appears on his palm, swallowing the clay from the bag. Meanwhile, Gaara is quietly reviewing documents, the job of Kazekage. He's doing surprisingly well. Influenced by Naruto, Gaara, after the Chunin exams, protects Sunagakure and its people. Yura kills the guards and starts a rebellion, welcoming Sasori and Deidara's arrival. Meanwhile, the test of Naruto's training begins. Team 7 reunites, only missing Sasuke. Facing the rapidly growing Naruto and Sakura, Kakashi, holding a bell, no longer dares to be careless, activates his Sharingan early. The assessment's goal remains the same. In any manner, Naruto and Sakura grabbing the bell from his hand means victory. As Naruto throws a shuriken, he charges directly. Kakashi dodges with a swift movement, countering with a similar shuriken. In midair, Naruto uses Kagebunshin. The clone pulls the real body away, easily dodging Kakashi's shuriken. After landing, Naruto conjures a giant shuriken, but Kakashi closes in, locking his arm. Yet Naruto's clone stands behind Kakashi, a kunai in hand aimed at Kakashi's waist. Kakashi is surprised Naruto has indeed improved, but still a bit impatient. As the smoke clears, the restrained Kakashi vanishes into thin air. Now it's Sakura's turn. Tsunade didn't just teach her medical ninjutsu. Sakura surveys her surroundings, no sign of Kakashi. He must have gone underground. She punches the ground, the smooth surface around her collapses with a rumble. Indeed, Kakashi is hiding underground. Sakura perfectly inherits Tsunade's mantle. The new legendary Sannin of Konoha is now apparent. A ninja must be adept at concealing their presence and striking unexpectedly. This is a ninja's essential tactic. As evening approaches, Kakashi, an elite J-nin, fails to sense his disciple's presence immediately. The hide-and-seek game between teacher and student has no victor. The outcome still depends on close combat. Kakashi first narrowly dodges Sakura's consecutive punches. Such punches would leave a bowl-sized hole in a hard tree. Naruto's over 2 years of special training hasn't taught him any new tricks. Aside from that, there's Rasengan. And then its all evolved forms of Rasengan. Naruto's 3 clones were strangled by Kakashi. Taking this opportunity, Naruto burst out from the bushes. The fingers of both hands, index and middle, brought together. The starting pose for Sennin Goroshi is already formed. But Kakashi, as the originator of this technique, could not let Naruto have his way. He narrowly dodged the Sennin Goroshi. At that moment, Kakashi's face was twisted in fright. Kakashi truly experienced the trouble his disciple now poses. Seeing the fight not concluding quickly, Naruto covered the area with Taju Kagebunsen, no jutsu. The overwhelming number somewhat offset the need for strategy and tactics. Sakura's support was also excellent. The ground was again shattered. The results from Naruto and Sakura were significant, especially Sakura next. Kakashi tested them in Genjutsu, but Sakura, already strong in Genjutsu, easily dispelled Sasuke's illusion, aiding Naruto's Rasengan in finding teacher Kakashi. Over at Sunagakure, danger lurks. Sasori's planted spy. easily killed the ninja guarding Sunagakure's gates, and silently infiltrated Sunagakure. Deidara spit out a clay-made small bird, after placing it on the ground with Deidara's hand seals. The white bird grew gigantic. Deidara planned to attack all of Sunagakure from the air. Deidara leaped onto the giant bird's back. He was set to bomb Sasori's homeland, but Sasori seemed indifferent. Deidara, driving the giant bird, flew toward the core of Sunagakure. The wind above Sunagakure was strong. The giant bird spread its wings. Just by floating on the wind's lift, it could glide freely and silently. He threw out several clay spiders one after another. 3 little spiders landed at 3 watchposts. The poor sand shinobi couldn't escape the spiders' bonds. After an explosion, everything was gone. Deidara's method of attack was somewhat eerie. Deidara, who flew from day to night on the giant bird, finally landed successfully. But looking up, Gaara seemed to have been waiting for him for a long time. With a phrase indicating an end with a fierce momentum, Gaara treated his enemies as coldly as ever. Deidara was momentarily startled, then regained his composure. As the two confronted each other, fine sand began to swirl around Gaara in the air. Deidara reached for the pouch on his back. He needed more clay. Gaara looked calm. The sand around him launched an attack, gathering into sharp swords, stabbing at him. Deidara leaped into the air, caught mid-jump by the giant bird, pulled up to a safe height. But in Sunagakure, Gaara's sand was endless. Even flying into the sky was futile. The sand still followed closely. Deidara could only maneuver through the complex buildings, dodging Gaara's sand. Only then did other ninjas on the ground spot the intruder. Deidara's next ninjutsu required more time to chew the clay. For now, he could only delay. But Gaara's sand split into many arrows, encircling him from all directions. The narrow architectural terrain was actually to his disadvantage. The giant bird flapped its wings and returned to the high sky. Gaara, standing on sand, floated up into the air. Deidara was curious why no one else had spotted him. Only Gaara was quite sincere, telling him, in such a desert environment, there wouldn't be such white birds. Thus, Deidara's covert operation was completely foiled. The village ninja discovered the murdered sentries. Kankuro also saw Gaara confronting the external enemy in the air. What started as a sneak attack turned into a full assault. Far at the village entrance, Sasori had Yura retreat. Gaara's back formed an overwhelming curtain of sand. He began to channel the power of Shukaku. Gaara transformed into a gigantic limb of Shukaku. Slapping at Deidara, riding the giant bird. Deidara, who had been evading and delaying, finally chewed the clay thoroughly. He spit out several clay-made little birds. The birds launched an attack at Gaara. Shukaku's arms blocked them. The next second, the birds exploded. But Gaara, heavily protected by sand, was unharmed. Deidara then molded 2 crane-shaped birds. This type of clay moved extremely fast. Dodging Shukaku's arms, they exploded before the shield of sand could close. A thick fog and fierce flames formed a giant fireball, engulfing Gaara. The sand, shinobi below, led by Kankuro, all cried out in alarm. Under the bright moonlight reflected on a lake surface, Kakashi and his 2 students continued the test. Sakura's punch to the ground caused a localized collapse. Now it was the 3rd subject of the test. A ninjutsu duel. Kakashi, with his extremely fast hand speed, performed a dazzling array of hand seals, leaving Naruto and Sakura stunned. As Gugakyu no Jutsu was activated, a huge fireball filled their vision. The hot air wave began to stir their hair. The ground started melting, forming a very deep trench. Immediately afterward, Kakashi, in a very short period of time, used Kaiten, Toten, and Suiten in succession. However, he was beginning to feel fatigue. Naruto and Sakura had been entangling Kakashi for a long time, fighting from day into deep night, yet they still hadn't touched the bell tied around Kakashi's waist. Naruto thought of a good idea. Subsequently, Naruto and Sakura attacked from the front. Kakashi was about to use ninjutsu to counter, but the next second, he heard Naruto spoiling the ending of Icha Icha Paradise. Because the Sharingan was activated, covering his ears was useless, and the moment he closed his eyes, the test had already ended. The bell easily landed in Naruto and Sakura's hands. Naruto was pleased that his progress was recognized. On the other side, after the smoke cleared, Gaara was safe inside the sandball. Outside, a third eye was observing the enemy's movements. Deidara was observing the sandball, unaware that the sand behind him had already enveloped him. The sand closed at an astonishing speed. Cold sweat began to flow down his face. He admitted he had underestimated Gaara, but the giant bird could no longer fly out of the sand's encirclement. He was also submerged in the quicksand. Kankuro, observing this situation, believed his brother had won, proudly declaring the battle was over. However, the next second, Kankuro reversed his conclusion. The bottom of the sandball was blasted open by Deidara. The escaping Deidara, without the help of the clay giant bird, was caught by the omnipresent quicksand by his ankles and was stuffed back into the embrace of the sandball. At a critical moment, Deidara molded an owl. Riding it, he temporarily escaped from the peril. Hiding inside the sandball, Gaara, with the outer third eye, finally had no worries and could safely eliminate the invader. Obviously, the owl molded by Deidara was not fast. In the chase, its left arm was accidentally entangled by the sand. Deidara felt his left arm as though it was wrapped by a python. The strength of the sand's bonds slowly tightened. Deidara spat out clay snails from his other hand, quickly entwining the sand column attached to his arm, trying to undo Gaara's ninjutsu. However, the strength of the sand this time was very high. Even after enduring explosions, it was unscathed. Gaara uttered, "Sand-binding coffin." Then with a single hand squeeze, Deidara's left arm burst out in blood. The owl in the air seemed to sense its master's pain, showing disordered flight behavior. Seeing that it was about to crash, Deidara actively amputated his arm to survive, freeing himself from the sand's bonds. Members of Akatsuki are all ruthless. He felt the difference in the sand used by Gaara. The sand that cut off his arm and the sand that previously enveloped him clearly differed in speed and strength. Gaara's gourd carries a certain amount of sand. These sands are Gaara's real weapons. Sand imbued with a large amount of chakra possesses absolute defense and instantaneous attack effects. Deidara realized that his preparations were clearly insufficient. Now, even after losing an arm and with not much clay left in his bag, Deidara still wanted to give Sunagakure a huge surprise. Deidara sat astride the owl, holding a clay bird in his hand, overlooking the increasingly gathering crowd below. Showing a wildly eerie smile, Baki saw that Gaara used the absolute defense sand. Feeling the strength of the enemy, suggested considering a combat plan for if Gaara lost control. The uncontrollable Shukaku also had to be guarded against, but this time Kankuro refused the suggestion. He believed in Gaara, now as Kazekage. Even in dire times, he would not harm the villagers. The battle continued into the deep night. Sunagakure started its emergency defense mechanisms. Under Baki's leadership, began to fortify the village's water sources. Civilians hid inside barriers. Other ninjas were ready to respond to potential hidden enemies. Sunagakure's combat power was pitifully scarce. A true ally who could help Gaara was missing. Deidara felt he could no longer delay. His right hand released a homing-type clay bird. The small clay bird turned into a large hen. Spreading its short wings, the target seemed not just Gaara, but the entire Sunagakure below. It rapidly descended. As it landed above a building, Baki finally sensed something was wrong. Urgently ordered people to evacuate, but it was all too late. A powerful shockwave, before the explosion arrived, collapsed all buildings blocking its path. The art of explosion was displayed in full splendor. Sunagakure was in imminent danger. However, Gaara's sand formed a giant shield, shielding the explosive force. But Deidara's target was still Gaara. Taking advantage of the moment Gaara had consumed a large amount of chakra, a clay bird came to Gaara's face. The passive defense skill, sand armor, couldn't activate in time. The explosion occurred directly. Sand armor barely managed to protect Gaara. Deidara, who had used up his clay, did not retreat. After all, the loss of his left arm was not in vain. Within the enclosed space of the sandball, Gaara was gasping for breath. At this moment, the greatest crisis was actually his own sand. Earlier, as the sand snapped Deidara's arm, the small mouth in Deidara's hand was not idle, continuously consuming Gaara's sand and mixing it with explosive clay before rapidly spitting it back out. Watching the clay spiders emerging from inside the sandball, Gaara had no way to avoid them. Over in Konohagakure village, Kakashi couldn't help but reflect on how his two disciples had grown up. They applied tactics very sensibly. Naruto, who obviously didn't know the ending of Icha Icha Paradise, even deceived his own teacher. Tsunade and Shizune emerged from the darkness. Naruto and Sakura's abilities had been recognized. Considering the severe challenges they were about to face, the two were now joining Kakashi's team as equals, ready to fight alongside their teacher. The teacher and disciples walked through the bustling night market streets of Konohagakure village. Following behind, Kakashi encountered Jiraiya. Jiraiya once again formally proposed to entrust Naruto to Kakashi's care, as he needed to leave to gather intelligence on Akatsuki. Naruto did not see Jiraiya. He was busy persuading Kakashi to treat them to ramen. However, Kakashi disappeared on the spot, leaving Naruto to pay out of his own pocket. But looking at Sakura, he thought, isn't this kind of like a date? Yet without even enough money to treat a lady to ramen, the two had no choice but to part ways. A frustrated Naruto reunited with the ramen shop owner, who, happy to see him, offered to treat him. Naruto began to regret not bringing Sakura along. Iruka also arrived, watching Naruto eat noodles. Iruka couldn't help but reminisce about the once mischievous kid who had finally become a capable genin. Naruto sneezed, accidentally knocking an egg off the counter. The egg's intact shell shattered, just as Gaara's sand armor also broke. Inside the Hokage's office, Tsunade was discussing with Shizune about assigning tasks to Kakashi's team. Tsunade thought they should contribute more to the village, wanting them to undertake a B-rank mission. The gentle-natured Shizune quickly intervened, feeling that it was better to progress gradually, perhaps starting with a D-rank mission. Eventually, they decided to assign them a C-rank gold transportation mission. In Sunagakure, Gaara, pushed into a desperate situation, faced the greatest crisis. Continuous muffled explosions occurred inside the enclosed sandball, causing many bulges to appear. Some sand uncontrollably fell from the sky. The sandball completely dissolved, and the injured Gaara still thought to move the previously formed giant shield of sand away, because once the sand fell, the village would be finished. Deidara had accurately targeted Gaara's weakness. At that moment, support from Sunagakure finally arrived. A giant crossbow firing explosive bolts targeted Deidara, but the accuracy was lacking, failing to cause Deidara any trouble. The crossbow's attack provided cover for Gaara, successfully moving the giant shield of sand outside the village. A massive cascade of yellow sand poured onto the open ground outside the village. The crisis for the village was averted. Gaara's chakra was completely drained, falling into unconsciousness. This scene pleased Deidara. Despite losing an arm, he considered the mission completed. Deidara, riding the owl, caught Gaara, then turned and left, leaving Kankuro and others in urgency. Actually, Gaara had enough strength to escape or even counterattack, but the village and his companions were now his deepest concerns. Akatsuki knew not only how to fight, but also how to exploit the emotional weaknesses of their opponents. Sunagakure, one of the 5 great shinobi countries, had its Kazekage captured under the watchful eyes of all the sand shinobi. As the owl was about to fly out of the village, the only threatening crossbow ceased firing, fearing it might hurt the Kazekage. The sand shinobi on the ground could only watch helplessly, unable to do anything else. The air was filled with a sense of sadness and despair. Still, driven by brotherly love, Kankuro attempted to chase Deidara on foot. Baki tried to stop him, suggesting it was safer to form a team for the chase. Kankuro directly countered. By then, they might not even find the enemy's shadow. The owl landed at the village entrance, flanked by high rock walls, leaving only a narrow passage. Deidara dodged an attack from Sasori. After all, he had kept Sasori waiting too long. Deidara and Sasori began their retreat, with the owl carrying Gaara following behind them. Kankuro reached the village entrance, with a ninja squad following close behind. A squad had previously guarded this place, but they had already been killed. Moreover, their bodies had been rigged with explosive tags. They failed to notice and inadvertently triggered a chain of explosions. Now, only Kankuro remained. Outside the village, Kankuro noticed several drag marks on the ground. While they indicated the real direction of the enemy, too much time had been consumed. However, the sand scattered by Gaara on the ground pointed Kankuro in the right direction. Facing the disobedient pupil Kankuro, Baki could only instruct the remaining ninjas to guard the village entrance. He needed to find another way to rescue Gaara and urgently sought help from Konohagakure. Kankuro pressed on relentlessly,